you may have seen, actually, if you look like in your email and you see stuff like these emails that you get, a lot of times they're spam though. You'll get something like this and it'll have a little banner in it, it'll have text in it, and it'll have the images and stuff like that in it. And if you scroll down here a little bit, it'll actually have like little links you can click on and do different stuff like that and everything. And sometimes they just have promotion offers. Anyways, I learned how to do this in ASP.NET not too long ago, and actually had done a Google search and found somebody that was actually doing it already. Of course, I had to make it fit to work with mine, so I'm actually the one that's been creating this computer software and more store too, by the way. And I'm just going to use this kind of as a model to really show you how this works, basically. So the kind of way this is start up, the first thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be setting up like text boxes on your screen. You can use labels or you can just type in direct stuff. And this is going to look like one of those emails, like you're sending an email to somebody. So you're going to see the from, you're going to see the to, where you're going to send it to, and you're going to have a password. This password is actually going to be the password from where you're sending it from, which I'll explain later. And the status, this kind of keeps track of when the email is going through and when it's accomplished and stuff like that. And then of course you're going to have the send button. So let's get started here. Okay, so anybody who's not familiar with ASP.NET, this is just actually one of the main screen. This is not actually a master page for those who are following my master page series. This one's just an example of showing you that this is just a design part. And if you click on the source button here, you can actually see the XML code that actually makes this happen. But this is just basically taking controls from the toolbox here, like button, text box, or whatever, and dropping them on the screen here to create the controls. And it's all done right there. And then once you've done that, actually, the real process is actually happening behind here. So when you click on this send email, it'll take me to the C# section that I've actually created here, or more likely modified. So to kind of explain this to those who need an understanding of what this is all about, obviously I have a namespace set up here for online store, which is the name of my project here. And then I have inside of this my own class, which I just called web page via email, because that's basically what it's doing. Is it's sending, once again, it's sending that page and all that directly here. And I've got my own that's actually, you're watching this demonstration, you'll see them. I've created my own that it actually sends it to my own email and not just anywhere. Okay, when it's, let me kind of give you an example. I think picture's worth 1,000 words, so let me just go ahead and run this and kind of show you what it really does, and then I'll go back and explain it. Okay, so once again, we're seeing the same screen here. Now in the from box, you're going to type in the email where you're going to be sending it from. So in my case, I just have one IT job seeker. I send it from there, and then my regular email. And the password, this password right here is actually going to be whatever your password is for this email that you type in the from box. And of course it's going to be hidden. It'll take a second. You'll see it'll say connecting here. And then watch down here. Email was successfully sent. So what this has done, it's actually taken from here and it's sent an email to here. So it's basically, it's in my Hotmail account. So if I go here to my, actually this is my Hotmail. Let me switch over here. If I go over to my Hotmail account here, I'll show you what it's done. So you see here, similar example, I've created my label, or excuse me, my banner inside of the email, and I have a little message here just for customers that would like come into the page. You could create any text you want in here, which I'll show you in the C# code here. And then you can also click on it. You can set these up like regular hyperlinks. And if you click on it, in this example I don't have a store online, so it just takes me to whatever store I set up, and I just linked it to Amazon just for demonstration's sake. And here at the bottom, of course, just a little picture of ASP.NET. And up here, you can also add attachments. Like if you have advertisements or whatever, I just call this one catalog. You can have people download that and look at whatever you're selling at that moment. So let's jump back over to here, and I'll show you where how it all works. Okay, so going back to the C# section, the first thing you're going to see here is my declarations. And I have a declaration from where from. The where from is just the from. I just called mine where from, as it tells where it's coming from. The going to is obviously where it's going to, and rather than just using to, I use going to. And the mail server name, yeah. This is the SMTP host, or basically the host of my server, which my host is obviously the first one, which is IT Job Seeker. It's always going to be this one. This is going to be the host name. And then I've actually got these set up. Actually, if you look at these are actually set up in different variables here, to kind of, or string variables, to keep track of putting them to the screen a little bit faster, and actually uses it down here in the program later, which let me go back and show you that here. So now we're getting into the kind of the body of, we're almost into the body of the program here. So this is actually one thing you want to use in a program. This is an object called mail message, and I just called mine mail MSG. Mail message is actually just an object that is used by ASP.NET to allow this stuff to actually happen. So a lot of the calls are going to be taken from mail message. In this example, I have it copied into the text boxes. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does. I was trying to do that to save a lot of typing, so if you go back in my actual here, it actually is supposed to copy these directly into here. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Oh, that's really weird. I don't know why that line came on there. Let me pull this back up here. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so here's, remember, this is the mail message. So this is basically taking this, and it's reading in the from attribute of this. So basically from here, it's calling the new, this is just basically setting up a constructor, by the way, for those who need to know. And it's setting it up for mail address, and it's going to take the first text box. This is text box 1, by the way, so it's going to take the from field. If you look up here, that's my from. Actually, where's that? Yeah, from, because I've got where from copied to here. So it's basically taking this and copying it down into here. And this is just kind of like the software in the header line. See, it says computer software more. If you go back over here to my email, it's right here. Or if you even go over here, it's always going to be in this section right there. So that's all that's doing, is copying right to there. Okay. Now the next line down here is the to line, obviously, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, it's taking everything in that to section and just copying into there. So this is keeping track of a from and a to, and then there's a subject. Remember, this is all coming from mail message. A subject is just like whatever you want to put in the subject line. Pretty self-explanatory. The subject line right here, subject line. Okay, so the next one here is body HTML. You always want to set this true. Okay, and down here is actually where the attachment happens. So this uses file stream to actually attach it, which is another object which you just need to basically initialize. You also want to make sure that you have these set up to be able to capture it. These are basically calling the classes. And then this part is a little tricky until you actually get used to it, but you know how when you normally are trying to find, like you're trying, oh, let me get this stopped here and I'll explain what's going on here. Excuse me. When you're normally trying to find a directory, you might do something like that, but in this case, it does always require 2 of them on each separation there. I don't know, it just kind of wants that in the actual program. Okay, and then this, you just want to kind of copy, this is basically the directory of where it's copying from. Let me show you. I think I might already have it on here. So if I go to that directory, computer software and more, it's just basically taking whatever's in that directory, which I have catalog right here. So it's taking this catalog and it's copying it into here, because remember, this is going to be the attachment. So it's going to basically attach. Let me go back to the mail to show you that again, just to make sure we didn't miss that. It's always going to show this right there. So it's attaching your document or whatever you want to attach. And you don't just have to attach Word documents. I know you can't attach PDFs, but if you go back down here, let me kind of jump ahead here a little bit. Actually, you know what? That's farther down. I'll probably explain that in a minute. So anyways, you can attach documents, you can attach pictures, images, but it won't, for some reason, it's not set up to attach PDFs. I've tried that. It doesn't seem to work very well. And then here's the attachment part. This is just actually the work that does the attachment. So you always want to take this same thing and then just kind of stick that file name down in here. And it uses media type names to call it, basically. Now down here, okay, let me not skip this part. This is just the attachment. So this is just like the stuff that actually makes it work. So long as you use mail message, remember this is that mail address to attachment, and then you're going to attach whatever you had called it from the append. So it's basically taking that catalog and attaching it. That's how it's doing the work there. Okay, so next thing is down here, this is where all the actual message comes from. So if you look at this closely, you'll see it says Dear Customer, blah, 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 and you look over here in my email, Dear Customer, blah, 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 blah. It's basically the HTML. So if you look in here, it's just set up like a regular HTML document. For those who need to know, HTML, body, break. You always want to make sure you put these inside the quotes, but you can pretty much build your own HTML code in here. And what I'm doing is basically concatenating it together. And then here's, and I'll go with this step by step so those who can really follow what's exactly going on here. So basically you set up the first header content of the HTML. And then this is going to be, for those who need to know, it's basically the link. And I just set up Amazon. So what this is saying is it's going to set up a link to Amazon when you click on the picture. And that's what this next one is, the image 1. This image 1, which is actually down here later. I scroll this over right here. So it's the logo. This is the name of this logo, by the way, the logo. I just called it logo version 02.jpg because I kept changing logos. So it's basically taking that image right there and it's copying it right into here. So that's creating the first image. And you always want to, when you're ever attaching, this is kind of this took me a little bit of learning here. Whenever you want to attach something like within another quote, like in this title, you need to put a quote in for the title, because if you do regular HTML, you would do something like title equals quote, dot, 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 your message, and then end it with a quote. But if you try to stick a double quote in here, let me show you. You try to stick a double quote here, and then try to stick it down here, you're going to get an error message. So it's not going to work, basically. So what you always want to do, instead of doing a quote, it supplements that with this basically, I believe that's the backslash. Instead of using a quote, they use the backslash. And I know PHP kind of does the same thing. Okay, the next line is just going to be the regular HTML, basically creating a larger header line for the Dear Customer, so it's in larger letters. And it's also in bold. You'll see the B, that's for the bold. And you always want to make sure you end your text too. And then basically, you're just going through the HTML again. You're just basically copying in what you want for each part of your HTML. This is just a message I put in for my store, which isn't live yet, but I'm hoping to get it really soon here once I get it working really well. And basically these are breaks. Going down through it, put your message in, you get down to the bottom here. And then at the very bottom here, you can attach other images. You can stick images inside here if you want to. I just basically stick them at the header in the footer, which is kind of like a typical web page kind of thing. And this one is actually the ASP picture. If you go over to this one, it's basically this one right here. Okay, so remember, that's kind of where you would put the body of your whole content of your message. And down here, alternate view, for those who need to know this one actually, this is basically, this is to kind of explain this. This is basically how the images are being done. This alternate view has some. This oh, I know what this is. Actually, this is where it's taking the HTML up here and it's making all this possible. So it's some kind of object class that allows this text to end up showing up as, and you can basically embed these HTML tags in here. Notice the word HTML. I'll bet if I go and change this, I'll bet you can probably add other stuff in it. Yeah, so you can kind of change it to different stuff in here, XML or just HTML. So, okay, and then down here, this is where all your images, if you want to attach more than one image, what I actually do is I just create different linked resource. So the linked resource is basically taking that image, the logo, the ASP.NET, and it's creating them. So if you want to do like a third one, you might do something like linked resource, I could spell LR3 and then kind of copy the same content as if you would basically change the image in there for that one. And this is what I was trying to explain earlier back here where I was showing you the catalog, the document, and the PDFs, that it doesn't accept PDFs, because if you actually go back here to this one, because this is actually attaching in the logo image, so if you go back here and you hit this, you can get to see the IntelliSense, which shows you all the options that are available. So it shows JPEG, GIF, but notice it doesn't, it has TIFF, but it doesn't have a PDF in here, so you can't basically copy a PDF, at least not this way, not that I found out yet. So just leave that as JPEG. And then this one is also a JPEG because it's the same. Notice when they're JPGs, they're obviously going to be JPEG, and then once again, it's the directory where you found it at. That's just where I stored the pictures on my hard drive. And down here, if you follow this image 1, you might have noticed earlier I mentioned this. This is this image 1 right here, which is linked to the LR, which is a linked resource. So if you follow this here, LR, this is actually the picture. So this linked LR image 1 is actually going to be right in here. So basically it's taking that logo and sticking it right in there, as I explained. And this one is the other one. Oh, I know what this is actually. This is the thing that makes it possible. So what I was showing you earlier here about the alternate view, this is what actually brings and allows those pictures to show up in the body of the email. And this is the second one right here. So this image 2, once again, it's being created by the second one, and I just called it LR2. I could have called this 1, but I just started as LR2. So basically, this one is taking image 2. Let's go back and look and see where I stuck image 2. It's right here. So it's taking the ASP message right here. This is LR2, and this is LR1, or image 1, image 2. And it's taking those and just sticking them appropriately where you have them. So as long as you copy this code and set it up this way, you should be fine. Kind of give you another view of that there. Okay, now down here, and these are just some places where I found some help to do this. Down here is what's called the client. This is the SMTP client that actually allows you to connect to the email. So this is basically using the mail server name. Remember earlier the mail server name was an SMTP host. So you want to use SMTP host to basically connect it to that host, which is connecting live to your email. And mine was basically the first one back here. This one right here. And then smtp.gmail.com. That's because this is a Gmail account I used, but you can change this to whatever you want. For example, if you have smtp.msn or whatever you have, you can use whatever you want in there. Just make sure that you're changing it accordingly. Now, if you do that also, I may not be able to help you all the way on this, but this port will have to be changed to match this. So the 587 is actually linked up to the Gmail's accounts. If you change this 587 to other things, I know if you do a search on the internet, you could probably find more stuff about the SMTP client. I would probably just do something like SMTP client, and let's see, probably the name of the like MSN, like SMTP client MSN port or something like that, and it should be able to find you the port that's actually connected to that server basically. This one is known as what's called the credentials. I'm trying to see if I actually use this one. I think this is actually the password. Let's see, because the text box 4, I'm pretty sure that that's the password. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me go back and double check that to make sure. Oh, yep, it's text box 4. So if you look over here in my properties, it's text box 4. Okay, so this is actually allowing the password to be checked. So when the password gets sent through the credentials, that's actually the most like the kind of authentication verification stuff. Actually, if you read right there, it says gets or sets the credentials used to authenticate the sender. So it's basically taking the first area, which was up here, which is Gmail, and authenticating it against the text box 4, excuse me, which is the password. So it's basically saying, what is the password for this first one? What is the password for the from account? So whatever you put in this line is going to be verified against this. And this is just another thing for SMTP. You would enable SSL, which is a secure sockets layer. This is basically the bell out encryption going on, which is, makes it secure when you do this kind of stuff. And this is the main line. It will actually take everything you just did from up here, from, add, subject, body, everything with the mail MSG, attachments. So everything that you've done in the body of the email. So if you go back over here, all the content from the images to the text, and also included the attachments, gets sent to the mail server. And that's what that's basically doing right there. It's sending it to the mail server. And then I also have a message to let me know when it's done. I just actually put in finish to print it out down here. Actually, I think it's right here actually. Just have it reading out to the text box. So basically it's taking it to text field 3, which is right here, the status line. So it's telling you finish. Now when it's sent, it's going to also print. So as long as this message goes all the way through, it'll reach this label. Because keep in mind, this is an exception. So it's listed inside of what's called a try block. So as long as the try block is succeeding and the password is successful, it'll successfully go through this whole line. And you'll be able to read the message out to the screen, which will say email was successfully sent. But if it fails, obviously it's going to skip out and not go to this section, but go to the catch. And it's going to print what failed. I could probably show you, like running this again, what happens if I fail it. So if I try to send an email, and let's say I don't even type in a password and I try to send it, it'll say failure sending mail. So it wasn't able to successfully send it. And this stuff down here is just some other stuff I've been doing. So this doesn't have anything to do with this actual program. So if you need to highlight it down again, remember you would set up your first of all, you would set up the mail message. This is really important. Always include this in. And then you would set up the from, the add, subject. So basically you want to make sure to include all this stuff in. If you want to do attachments, you can add an attachment. You don't have to. You can also create the email without the attachment. So if you don't want to add in the document, you don't have to do it. And if you don't want to do it, obviously you want to remove it, because remember it's being attached inside the email. So and then of course this is your HTML, which is drawing this whole area right here. And you can, like I said again, you can change anything you want in here. Anything to do with any kind of HTML, whatever is basically acceptable. And you always want to set it inside of the string. Notice I'm just doing string plus plus, string plus plus. So it's basically taking all this and adding it. So it's building an entire string. This is the whole thing. It's basically building an element, a bunch of elements, so to speak of. And if you're not doing attachments, you won't need any of this. You won't need any of this linked resource stuff. But you always just want to basically include the stuff down here, because you would skip over this if you're not doing images. Notice those are just images. And then you would make sure to have the host, the port, the credentials, so everything down here. So that's pretty much how it works in general. So if you guys have any questions, just let me know about it. And if you're interested, please subscribe to my videos. I'm looking forward to actually getting more of these ASP.NET tutorials out there as we come across them, as I continue to make them, basically. Thank you very much.